All right, guys. Sorry to run a little bit late. He lives way up in the mountains, so was having a little bit of technical difficulties trying to get his audio to come in. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to use him over my cell phone. So we'll do an audio check and see if y'all can hear me. And if y'all can hear me, then we'll just start off that way. Can everybody hear me right now? Pretty good. Is everybody hearing me good? You got good audio? All right. Glenna says yes. All right. Peace says yes. All right. And then what I want to do is I'm going to have Calvin just introduce himself, kind of what he does, his team. And then if y'all have any trouble hearing him, just let me know. But if y'all can hear him, just give me a thumbs up or a yes whenever he starts speaking. So Calvin, go ahead and introduce yourself and let them know kind of what you and your team do, and we'll start from there. Are you there, Calvin? Or Cal? Hello? We're having just a little bit of trouble. All right, Cal. I want to let you go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of tell everybody what you and your team do.
Okay, all right. I want to apologize to everybody about the technical issues. It's my fault, not Mike's. But my name's Calvin. I have a team formed of Cryptid. And what we do is we take and look for the recent sightings and encounters in the state of Kentucky and some surrounding areas. And we go and we hunt the cryptid. We're all ex-military. We all have combat experience. So it's not like we're going out all half-cocked or anything. But in the state of Kentucky, it's a hot spot, and you can just about go anywhere in the state and find cryptid encounters and reports. The BFRO has several that's close to my house, and we have searched all those. We found one. It was a squatch that had gotten old, and the clan had left it alone. And that was back in 2009, and we've been doing it ever since.
Right. And you guys are, most of you are former military or military, correct?
Yeah, we're all ex-military with combat experience.
I want to go ahead and thank you all for your service. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't have what we have. So a big thank you and a shout out to you guys. You have had a pretty unique encounter while you were out hunting.
My first encounter, yes.
Yeah, I'm going to let you go ahead and tell everybody about that encounter. That's one of my favorites that you've told.
Okay, all right. I got back from deployment. It was in September 2005, and I was trying to adjust to civilian lifestyle again, which is kind of hard for a vet. It takes several months just to calm down and get into a routine. Well, the routine I was going in, I was kind of depressed, and I wasn't, very active or anything. And Toby, one of my best friends, and he served with me, he came up and was talking, and he was trying to get me out and everything because my wife was having no success. Well, he talked me into going deer hunting in November. He said he had permission to hunt his uncle's property, which was in Wolfe County, Kentucky, which is about a 2-hour drive from here. So, opening day for rifle season opens on a Saturday. But we go down Thursday because Toby's wanting to get up Friday morning and try to kill a doe with his crossbow he just bought. So we get all the way down there, and it's 3 miles off the main road. And we finally find a little flat that we're going to set up on. While we're setting up camp, Toby gets a phone call saying that he needs to come home, that his daughter is sick. So he tells me he can't spend the night, but he would be back by 5 a.m. the next morning. And that leaves me there all alone, which that's the way I wanted it. So I camped out by myself many a day. And so after he leaves, I'm walking scared to find a pond. And we come across this pond. It's about a mile away from where we set our camp up. And at that pond, it's, deer tracks everywhere. And I'm like, well, right here it is. So we get setting up there. I've got the stands in this little bitty scrub oak. It's a double bull stand, so, there's 2 people that can sit in it comfortably. I'm a pretty big guy, but Toby, he's only like 5'7". So, he's more comfortable than what I am. And I put the stand up, I pour out some cover scent, so, to kill all the human scent and everything. And I start looking, and there's a hollow off to the left of the pond. But when you get on the opposite side of the pond, there's nothing but brush. It's real thick. You can't see into it hardly. You may get 10 yards worth of vision, into the brush. But that, that's fine. That's enough for a bow shot. And I take my yard rank finder out, and I scan it, and it says it's 8. I'm able to shoot 80 yards shot in this brush and stuff with the crossbow, but that was the only place we had. And I was like, well, we can't do it with the bow. We cannot, Saturday morning, one of us can use the rifle. Okay, my rifle and everything is in the truck. I'm prepared. And I go back, after scouting a little more, go back to camp. I eat my dinner. It's getting, a little late. It's about 9:30. I decided to go in the tent, and I fall asleep. Well, early that morning, something wakes me by walking around the camp, and I start to raise up. And I was thinking, that's just Toby. He's gonna, he's here. He's gonna let me lay a little bit, sleep a little more so I can, get up and get started. I started to get out of the tent, but I did. I laid back down and I fell asleep. Well, next thing I know, Toby's waking me up saying, "Are you gonna sleep the day away?" So I get up and I'm like, all right, and there's fresh coffee, so we're drinking coffee, and he's starting to rush. So I grab all my gear, and we go. We get in the stand. It's about an hour and a half before, you can even start to see. You could hear the night birds fluttering around and singing. We get in the stand, we sit there, we calm down, get everything settled down. We use some more cover scent, and then it starts to break a little dawn, just a little bit of daylight where you can see. And we hear some rustling coming from the brush pile. Well, with the brush pile, you could see the edging of it, but it's like shadow. You're seeing shadow a lot. And here comes a doe. She runs out. She don't stop at the water like I was thinking she would. She just goes directly to her left and goes down in that deep hole. And we're thinking that, a buck is, after her because the rut's in. So we're anticipating a shot at a buck. By this time, the sun's peeking up a little bit. When we hear the noise coming from the brush pile again, I just turn and look, give Toby, "Hey, get ready." Signaling, he's already prepared. He's got his crossbow up and everything. Now, I didn't know this until after, but he had just bought that crossbow. He had shot it twice. And I'm thinking, surely to God, he's going to take a shot when it's off. But I was unaware that he just bought the crossbow this time. Well, the noise kind of died down for a moment. And by this time, you could see the brush pile. You could see it moving because, the sun's coming up. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a big buck because the noise it's making coming through this brush pile is going to be huge. Well, it's not a deer when it breaks through. It's solid black. And it's on all fours. I'm looking, I'm like, wow, man, that's a big cow. And, the sun just ain't hitting its, bird just right before we can see what color it is. But no, the sun was hitting it right and everything. And I start noticing, and I look at the head, and I'm like, oh my God. The only wolves we have in Kentucky is the red wolf. And this thing is bigger than any red wolf. It's bigger than any 4 red wolves you can put together. And I'm thinking, it's either an oversized dog or it's just, a hybrid wolf that somebody's brought in as a pet. And it still got me kind of freaked out. Now I'm waiting for Toby to take a shot. I'm like, put this thing down. It stands up. That's what freaks us out. When it stands up, on its hind legs, it's standing there. And at this time, I'm in shock. Toby is afraid to move. And he's sitting there in a position, to fire, but he can't. He's so afraid he can't. And you can't see his face on that good because there's 2 little bitty limbs hanging down in his face. It brings its arm up, not his paw, its hand. Yeah, its hand, and he breaks the twigs out of his face, and then you get the actual look of the animal that's there, and his eyes. They got like a self kind of glow, like and they're amber as hell. I mean, they're just a little shade of golden yellow, and I mean, you don't see nothing in them eyes. There's nothing there, but it's like death. And at this time, I'm shook up beyond. I've never been this shook up before in my life, and I'm a combat vet. I have seen action and firefights on multiple occasions, and that's not what got me as bad as what I was seeing November 2005 when I was looking into this. I'm looking at something that I've always been told does not exist. I'm thinking this is a werewolf, and he wasn't very muscular built, but he was tall. He was taller than I am, like 6'6". After it was all said and done, he sniffs the air, and we're still sitting there. Literally scared the piss out of me.
And what people don't understand, I'm going to brag on you.
Well, he goes back down to all fours, and he starts growling.
Right. And you're not
sniffing the air.
And you're not just in any military. I want everybody to know you're 101st Airborne.
And I thought that our time had come and we was going to die a horrible fate. He jumped over. He's like, no, they don't exist. I said, well, we just looked at one. And I said, why didn't you shoot? He said, I didn't have the competency in myself to fire at that with me not knowing how this shoots, and I'm not that good of a shot with it as of now. I had reached for my 10mm 6-6 that I had with me, but it was back in camp before I got in a hurry. And I ran off and forgot my sidearm. And so the only thing I had was a hunting knife on my hip. And there wasn't no way I'm going to go toe-to-toe with this thing with a knife. But we start walking back that whole mile from the stand to the camp. Every few steps we stop and look around. Every little noise we stop. And we, it's shock. We're in shock. And it's got us to where we're scared out of our pants. Every little noise will make you jerk and jump.
And you was in the 101st.
When I get back to the camp, I grabbed some gear that's loose. I grabbed my sidearm, and I start throwing stuff in the back of my truck. I jumped in the truck. I left the stand. I left Coleman cook stove, tent, and all. And right before we're getting ready to pull out, we hear this earth-shattering howl coming from the hollow. And I was thinking, man, this isn't a dream, this is real. So we come off the mountain, and we end up going down maybe 2 miles down to this gas station, and we pull in, and we're talking amongst ourselves. And I told him, I said, I'm going home. I said, this is done. I'm not speaking of this no more. So when we get up, he goes his way, I go my way, I get home. And, excuse me, when I'm home, that's the only thing that's on my mind is what we seen, how it could be real. I had no idea what a dogman was at the time. I knew I've heard of Bigfoot and everything, but I never in my life heard of a dogman until I seen one, and it was about a month and a half, 2 months after I seen it before we found out that they're called a dogman, not a werewolf. And after that, I didn't go in the woods again. It's a couple months had passed before I would go back in the woods. And when we went this time, we was looking for it, to see if we could see it again. But with that ended my first encounter, and which started me doing the cryptid hunting, and it's changed my life 110%. It's 360-degree loop. It's real, and that's how I found out, and it's changed my life ever since.
Right. Have you been back to that spot? Can you hear me, Cal? Cal?
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, can you hear me? Having a little audio problems, guys. He's way up in the mountains. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Was having a little audio problems. Did you ever go back to that spot?
Yeah. We went back that one time, and I didn't make it out of the truck. I made it to the foot of the hill, and we was actually supposed to go back this weekend. After all this time.
Right.
But one of our buddies, Merle, went with Toby, and he got the stand and the tent, which wasn't bothered. And I told Toby, I said, when you woke me up early, when you first got there and was walking around, when you woke me up, I should have, if I knew what was going on, I would have left. He said, I woke you up as soon as I got out of my truck. And I said, no. He said, yeah. He said, I didn't get here till a little after 4. So then we got looking, and we found some, they had seen some smudged tracks and stuff up there where the tent was.
Right.
And the only thing we could figure out is it walked around the tent. That's what I heard walking around the camp that night when I was alone.
So it was already stalking you. It already knew you.
Yeah.
It already knew you was there.
Yeah, it knew I was there because I guess it had caught my scent or seen me or whatever when I was out scouting.
They're real good about catching hunters out, and following us back home, and the hitchhiker effect and things like that. They're it's like they see us, and they have this, they want to follow us, and I think that's what gets a lot of people in trouble. They follow us back. Then if you have kids or whatever, they grab a kid or whatever and take off.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's what turned my life completely around. There for the longest time after my first encounter there, I wouldn't even take the trash to the trash can without carrying my 12 gauge.
Right. Did you was it big like everybody says, the weightlifter looking type?
No.
Or
No, it wasn't all that muscular built, but it was tall because they measured the 2 little limbs it broke.
Uh-huh.
They measured it, and it's and it was just eye level. It still, the top of his head was still covered, pretty much, and it was 7'1", just at the eye level.
Wow.
So he was tall, but he wasn't very muscular. He wasn't like the bodybuilder types that people see a lot. But he looked just like, I thought I could have swore I was looking at Anubis because he looked just like a Doberman pincher in that face.
That's and then people say how fast they move, but if they're that tall, just imagine the legs that they have on them,
Oh yeah.
Because we used to raise Great Danes. I mean, them things, they could haul some butt.
Oh yeah. But when he decided to go over into the hollow after that doe, it was like that old expression kicked in, the word of God couldn't have caught him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, he was going. Yep.
Another thing you told me about your area that I thought was pretty interesting is you have coal mines in your area, right?
Oh yeah, there was an abandoned mine there on that side, on the property where we was at. As my first encounter, it had been they'd closed it down in the late 1980s, and it was just an abandoned mine. And Toby's uncle owned the property at the time, so that's the reason we could go down there and hunt. But he sold the property after that, and Toby knows the gentleman that owns the property now, and he's gave us permission to go back anytime we wanted to.
See, I also down here where I have this hot spot where I do all my cryptid hunting, it's surrounded by coal mines also. So
yeah, they go in them. I honestly believe they use them for shelter.
Right. I believe that too. So you had a kind of an experience like I did. You have actually put lead in one, correct?
Yeah. It's happened in Cumberland County, Kentucky, over there near the Cumberland Falls. It was about, I think, 7 miles, 25 to 7 miles away from the actual falls itself. We was there, and we'd heard, some stories, and I was like, you can't believe everything you hear. So we was up there, just going and seeing if we could, see sign or anything. We got up and we walked up this big deep hollow, and on the top, at the end of the hollow, you go up, and it's just a big open area from where they had reclaimed them, because there was a strip job there at that time. They had reclaimed it, and everything had grown back and everything. And there was plenty of sign, for, deer and plenty of wildlife around. And we didn't even know we was around this until he stepped out in the open. And when he stepped out in the open, he was bigger than the first one I seen. He was cut a little bit. He had some muscle on him.
Right.
And he kept coming towards us. He seen them, but he kind of lowered, and that's when he let out that guttural growl that you could feel in your chest and would kind of make you sick to your stomach. Mm-hmm. And what we did was, we stood our ground, and I told everybody, I said, you feel threatened, I said, fire. And he just kept easing closer and closer, and he got a little too close for my liking, so I was carrying a Remington Model 700 308 at the time, and I raised it up, and I even spoke to it. I said, I don't want to shoot you. I said, but if you come another step, I said, I'll send you to hell on a shut. Well, apparently he don't understand English, so he takes another step. Right. When he does, I fired. I hit him center mass in the chest. And Steve Tapio, he's part of my team. He was a scout sniper, Marine scout sniper during Operation Freedom. He saved a lot of boys over there in the sandbox. And he fires in his chest. Okay, that's a round from a 300 mag that Stevens fired, and a 308 that I fired. Okay, it's 2 rounds, center mass, chest shot, and he turns and he runs off. We're standing there gathering our thoughts and, calming down. So we walk over and we follow trail. We follow blood trail. We follow it for, I guess, a good 3/4 of a mile. And it was bleeding good, and then it stopped bleeding. It was like a little drop here and a little drop there, and I'm waiting to find, dead body, because I'm thinking, hey, he's bled out. And we got over around some big rocky, like a big rock quarry, and we lost all tracks of all signs. No tracks, no blood, or nothing. And I was like, well, maybe he'll die. But, I never could find the body. And I know we both hit him because at both times we fired, you seen blood spray.
Do you think it's a possibility that whenever, we're in the woods and stuff, we know there's creatures, in the woods, there's deer and, other kinds of animals are always in the woods. We don't always see them. So do you think it's possible that whenever we shoot these creatures, as in my incident, I actually see one running off with something over its shoulder. Do you believe there's ones out there we don't see that pick them up and pretty much get them out of there? Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a possibility, because I thought that myself. They're making it to where they know they're in an area where another one is, and they'll come and pick them up and carry them off.
Because it's always been my, it's always been my experience where there's one, there's more.
Oh yeah, it's like the first time we ever seen a squatch. It was standing there in some between two trees with some shrubbery. You couldn't really see him at first, but he was swaying side to side, and that's what gave him away.
Right.
Was he swayed to his right, and you just seen the outline and the silhouette of him. And one time we was looking at, him, there was three more that was going down away from us down the hill, because we was up on top of a mountain. They was going down towards some caves were, and we spotted them. And so there's always more. When you see one, they're not alone.
Right.
And these things, you may think that they're stupid, but they're not. They're very intelligent.
Right. Jordan
they
Cody.
They're tactical as hell.
Yeah, they have the ability to ambush. They think a lot further than what the other ones do. Jordan Cody just asked a question that actually I was fixing to move on to. This is going to be a huge debate question, and I'll give my my theory here in a second, but I want your theory first. He says the possibility of them going through portals. What do you think about portals, Cal?
Okay, now I don't want to rub anybody wrong by saying this, but I myself personally don't believe in the portals, just for the simple fact I've never seen a portal. I've never been around a cryptid that used a portal or anything. Everyone I've seen and I've shot at has ran off to where I could see it until it gets outside. As far as the portal goes, at this time I'd have to see it before I would believe it. But I'm not saying that they don't use them. I'm just saying, as for me, I don't think they do.
Right. I have a theory. I'll share it with everybody. It's a theory. I'm open to being proven wrong or whatever. They say a good teacher is also a good student. So, but this is my theory. On the portals, a guy made a statement that if there was other dimensions, and that would mean that possibly that the Bible would not be true in those other dimensions, because I base everything off the Bible. I'm a Christian, and I base my investigations off the Bible. I believe that to be the Word of God and to be truth. So my belief would be that if they are using portals, that theory wouldn't be true, because we know that whenever Jesus came back in his glorified body, he walked through a wall twice, which would require him to be able to walk in the fourth dimension, which would show that God's word is in all dimensions. If it's in the fourth, it's in the first through the fourth, and he's also the writer of the laws. And another thing people talk about is the demons crossing between physical and spiritual. And Jesus said, "Behold, I stand at the door." And demons lost their ability to manifest into a physical body whenever they mated with the women. In my opinion, it caused the Nephilim. Jesus, he came here And kind of a way to look at it is the Bible says that you must be born of water to be here. And even whenever God came here, Jesus was born through the womb, through the water, and he even obeyed his own law, which the womb and the water would be somewhat a birth certificate and being able to be here. The demons, they don't have that birth certificate, which is why they're disembodied spirits. And then, of course, you have the ones that mated with the women that are, chained, to be judged at a later date. Uh, Demons are not born of water, so they're not able to take on that physical, spiritual thing. Jesus put us above all things on earth, and I just don't see him giving these creatures the ability to be above us because we are above all things, in his word that he told us. And I believe for them to be able to do that, God would just not give them that ability. And then even looking at it at a more of a logical standpoint, if they do have these abilities and they have that much of a technological advance over us, then why are they hiding and eating people's scraps, eating out of dumpsters and hiding in the woods? It just doesn't make sense to me. I believe that they are masters of their environment. I believe that in the woods, they are, 100 times better than we are. Their senses are acute. They're in the woods, they're masters of their domain. But as far as technology and being able to do all that, I just don't believe that they have that ability. We got chameleons and frogs and stuff like that here that can change color. They can blend in. And as well as I do. Better than I do. You're in the military, 101st Airborne. What a sniper can do in an open prairie. He can be up on you and cut your shoestrings, and you'll never know he was there. And our snipers don't live in that environment. These creatures do. So just imagine their abilities. Your thoughts, Cal?
Well, my thoughts exactly. And here's, it says in the Bible that demons and angels are among us. And that's pretty much what you can say a dogman is. Your demon. They come straight from hell. That's what I believe. And every chance I get, we try to send one back.
And another theory I had, and see, I want to know what your opinion is on this, and also our viewers that are listening. A lot of people say, then how come whenever we have a Bigfoot encounter, we also have, some people have spiritual encounters? And one of the things I would say is, if you have the Nephilim, which were from the fallen, which would be from the fallen angels, which the demons, etc., they would have that bloodline. They would have that DNA. So if these creatures, which I believe are, flesh and blood, they still carry that same bloodline as the fallen ones, which I believe would attract demons because the demons would recognize that, as the lineage. And that's why whenever I go out, I tell people, whenever I go out into the woods and I start having these different encounters, which I have had spiritual encounters. Sarah was slapped. We've had spiritual encounters. I tell them to leave in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. And at that point, everything else that's left, I can kill it because Jesus has already took care of the spiritual part. Now I'm going to take care of the flesh and blood. I know what I'm dealing with. And that's how I go about it. Just put the armor of God on and deal with what's flesh and blood and let Jesus have the rest.
Yeah, that's I agree with you wholeheartedly there. Once God takes care of the spiritual, the physical is easy.
That's right. That's what I think.
And people say that they're hard to kill and they're indestructible. No, they're not. Because after our experience with the 311 Win Mag and the 308, we all, I switched over and I have a SOCOM 458 now. It's that I use, and with that, there's no doubt that it hurts them, it puts them down, and but without the word of God there, because we always pray before we enter the woods. We have a team prayer, and with that, it's all left up to God after that, He goes in, he does his job, and we go in and we do ours.
Right. And then, Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot, he said, Jesus put demons in pigs to kill them. Demons die if you kill them in the body. You kill the body, the demon has nowhere else to go.
Yeah, it has nowhere else to go unless you've got someone there that's willing to take it as a host.
And that's where your problem begins, huh?
Yeah, that's where your problem is.
It almost sounds like the Jameson family that I just covered.
Yeah, That's what I was thinking about just then.
That's a place I don't want to go into. I've had enough of that happen that's just an area I just would rather not go into that. It's you know as well how dark that gets, and if I can't kill it with a gun or a knife, then I don't want to be hunting it. I'll let Jesus take care of the rest of that.
Yeah, that's me.
Uh,
When we went through and our first deployment was, we were sent into Iraq, and there was a guy there that, he said, he was an atheist, which, each his own.
Right.
And he went out one night, and he got pulled over and put with this one unit, and they were doing night ops. Just observation. If they got fired upon, they're supposed to fall back. Well, they came over and they told me, they Sergeant Major, that you need to go over and talk to it. Well, I'll not mention his name. Said he's a totally different person now. We went over there and I looked and I said, "What's your problem, soldier?" He said, "I have no problem." He said, "I found Jesus last night." Yeah. I said, "How did you do that?" And he said, "I'm not at liberty to say, sir." And I found out that they'd seen something that, wasn't supposed to be there. And it scared him so bad that not only did he have to change uniform, but he was like praying the whole way home, all the way back to the base, which was about an hour ride on a chopper. So he,
You all encountered a lot of things over there in the sandbox, didn't you, that wasn't human?
Yeah. Yeah, there's, we personally seen a thing that, it looked like a huge hairless rat. And it's their form of a cryptid. But, you can, if you're fast enough, you could get one, but they look like Speedy Gonzalez. Right. When they run all over the place. And I asked the lieutenant one day what they were, and he told me, he said, "They're a figment of your imagination." And he said, "Now forget about it." And that's what I was told. So I said, "Well, all right." So I minded my own business from there on out about it.
Right. And thank you, Glenna Sue, for the super there for $50. Glenna's a big supporter of the channel. She's a very good person. And thank you very much. And God bless you too, Glenna. Yeah, I've talked to other soldiers. I'm not going to take you far down that road because you do have a family. And I know that it comes with threats and, family safety. And I would never jeopardize anybody's family. But there is things that happen over there that maybe we'll put it as the possibility of super soldiers being tested over there, because I know that Saudi Arabia had a few of their top diplomats actually asked the United States to please stop bringing our super soldiers over there, because they were not only killing the enemy, but they were also killing friendlies. And we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's some subjects are hard for me to talk about. When it's dealing with the same, anything dealing with the conflict and everything, some subjects, it's just hard.
I understand wholeheartedly. One of my first calls was a dead 6-month-old baby in a car. And I thought the baby was still alive, and I was talking to it until the trooper told me, the baby had expired. And then it just seems like from then on, it seems like that's all we deal with is the bad in society. And you know, I done domestic was what I specialized in, and my investigations. I worked with juvenile services, and when it comes to kids, it's heartbreaking. And again, thank you for your service and everything you've done. We're going to get out of the sandbox. So, what is your thoughts on these creatures as far as being able to fly?
Maybe if you put them in a 747. But
you're talking about the Kandahar guy.
Yeah, I've never seen one.
I'll tell you a story. My granny, a lot of things happened at my granny's, and there was a time it snowed, and we had I believe it was 18-inch footprints that went from the house the next morning, and we were so excited. It was like, oh, we got footprints. So I was probably 16, 17, and me and my cousin, we start tracking it, and they had cattle, so we didn't have a lot of trees around. It was just open, pasture prairie. And whenever we got out there, the footsteps go out to the middle of the field, and then you got two deeper impressions, and then they're gone. So we go back and we tell, Granny, we're like, Granny, they went to the middle of the field and they were just gone. And without even thinking about it, she just looks at us and she goes, well, hell yeah, they fly. And I said, what? And she said, yeah. She said, they land in the trees out here in the roof all the time. Well, then this summer, my sister was on her way. She works at night, and she was driving across the lake. We have a roadway that goes across the lake. It's about 2 miles. You got water on both sides. It crosses the middle of the lake. And she said she seen a creature sitting on the side that flew off. It looked just like a gargoyle. Her and her husband both scared them to death.
I've heard of the stuff like the gargoyle that and stuff, but as far as seeing one, I've never encountered anything like that. I did encounter this little bitty beast. It was in Ohio. We was up there looking, trying to find a grass man, because they said this coon hunter had got in touch with us and said he had a sighting with a grass man. We was like, well, okay, it's not that far of a drive. So we decided to go and got up there, and this little beast that we run into looked like a badger, but it was solid black. And when it ran on its hind legs. But when it went down on all four, it made this weird little squealing noise. And it was like high pitched. It meant business when it went on all fours and it decided to run.
On that high pitch, I have another theory on that. And Shell actually said, Mike, your theory, they have double voice boxes. The reason that I think that their voice boxes may be different than ours is, they talk about they have sound waves above and below what we're able to hear, which can cause us, to be disoriented or sick or whatever. Well, the Bible said, that Satan had instruments planted inside of him. So if they are from the fallen angels and they're all built the same way, which you would think that, they're all, close, that if they have these voice boxes, that some of these traits were passed down, and maybe that's how they have this ability to be able to make sounds that we're not able to hear, because again, they, Satan made beautiful music. And if they have this ability, then they would have the ability to control sound, which is, I think, another thing that was passed down and how they're able to do that.
Yeah, like a siren song,
Yes.
They say sirens sing the sailors and lead their ship into being wrecked and everything else.
Yep. And then you got, the sirens out in the ocean with the mermaids. I was going to cover a little bit of that, but my colleague actually quit that was going to do that. She took off. So I don't think we're going to be doing that. It's a possibility, but it's just not something I'm ready to dive into. I've still got a lot more cryptid stuff I'm wanting to do. It would have been fun. I was really interested, and I wish we would have been able to do that. But as of right now, I don't know about the future, but as of right now, that's not going to be happening.
Wasn't it the Discovery Channel that had the documentary about the mermaids?
I think
several years ago.
I think so, and they also have like a series on Tubi, I think, also called Sirens.
Yeah.
But yeah, they.
I wonder if they're top water bait.
I don't know. I'm not a real. I mean, I can swim, but I'm not a good enough swimmer that I want to jump in and something try to eat me.
No. That's I can swim, but I definitely don't want that.
Yeah, like that poor lady, man. Prayers to her and her family, that was walking her dog and got ate by that alligator.
Yeah, that gator. Yeah,
that's terrible.
Yes, it is.
Man,
it is. Now, up in the next county over from me right now, there was a boy that was walking his dog, and he had a Rottweiler that weighed about 150 pounds. And I mean, it was just massive. This dog was, but it was the friendliest little dog you ever seen in your life. He would bring it, he'd bring it to the shop, and his dad would come down to the shop, did bring it. Hey, that's one dog I didn't get from that was brought into the shop, and he'd come in, and it would sit down and raise its paw for you to shake its hand and everything. And I told him, I said, what do you feed this dog? I said, Lord have mercy, he's solid, and he's huge. And he's like, well, they fed him something from the vet, back the vet's office. But anyways, he was just a beautiful dog. He was huge. But anyways, that boy was walking around up on a strip down that they, used to ride horses and four-wheelers and stuff on. And he had his dog with him. He's just walking his dog, minding his own business. And when he said one cow came out and rushed him and his dog, taking his master out of the cow. And but that boy told me, he said that cow took his front paw and ripped his dog's throat out. Wow. And at this time, he took off running. Now, our cows here in Kentucky, if you get one above 30 pounds, you got a state record because they're small. And one cow against that Rottweiler wouldn't have been nothing but a smack for that Roddy. And I honestly believe that boy got up there and confronted me, and one of the juvenile dogmen confronted it, and that's what killed Lady's dog.
So, what do you think about the Corey Godsey case? You know anything about that?
Actually, I do. We have family members that work that case. The area I've been into it. I've been right there at the house that Corey lived in. Mm-hmm. The embankment that he was drug up is straight up and down. I mean, as far as you being able to walk straight up it would be physically challenging to walk up it. Right now with my leg, it would be impossible for me to do it. And it's just so thick, it's abuse. I mean, there's no way. And like they're blaming dogs, like always. There's no way dogs could carry drug his body up there, because I mean, honestly, there is, they couldn't get him started, let alone all the way up there, because it's just, it's straight up and down. And I know that parts of the boy was eaten, and they never found. And there was a guy had been calling the game warden several times, stating, that he'd heard some growling coming from the old Golden Oak mine that was up there, up above the property of the Godseys.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what I brought up too. He was the one that they made redacted statement.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, he even he told some people that he had pictures of something on his trail cam. And when he went back to get his SIM card from his well, not his SIM card, but his storage card, his SD card from his trail cam, it wasn't there. They didn't just take the card; they took camera and all.
You know, this story was so covered up. Whenever I first broke it, I was contacted by a law enforcement officer, and they went as far as they went on another channel and sent an agent that said, "Oh no, the body wasn't in bad condition. There wasn't a scratch on it, and the little boy, they tried to cover it up so well, and then they said the guy that had interviewed, he was an officer in that county and worked on the fire department, and everything else. Well, I ended up calling the law enforcement up there, and then they put me in touch with the deputy. And the guy that said all this, they didn't even know who the hell he was. They said, "We have no idea who he is. He's not a deputy here. He's never worked for the fire department." And I asked him, I said, "Was the body in bad shape?" And he said, "I can't go into detail because it's an open case, but he said, I'll tell you it's something that, you wouldn't have an open casket with."
No, because they couldn't have an open casket because part of the boy's face was missing.
That's what I heard. And they said that the terrain, not just the how steep the hill was, but they said the terrain, as far as the obstacles, the underbrush, the trees, the loose rocks.
Yeah, it's so thick you can't walk through it. If you walk through it, you're scratched up. Time you get to the other end, I'm telling you, and you're cut, scratched.
And me and you talked about this also the other day, that whenever dogs attack something, they don't drag a human off to eat you. They attack you and they eat you in the spot they kill you.
Yeah, where they bring you down that's where you get eat at.
We call it a kill zone.
Well, that's what we always called it.
And the law enforcement, they want to they want to put this idea into people's heads that now dogs are killing people and they're dragging you off and then eating you. That they'll eat you at the spot, and then they might take leftovers with them, but there's going to be a huge crime scene where the initial attack happens.
Oh yeah, there's blood splatter all over the place.
And it's just how they try to get people to believe their narrative is what I call it. But Lenita Bryant, thank you for the 1999 super sticker. I appreciate that very much. God bless you. It's just, being in the military and the structure that I was in, they tell us whenever you're in an authoritative figure, that you can tell people certain things and they're going to believe it at your word just because of the uniform you wear. And
yeah,
they rely on that. It's deceivery.
Well, they told us when some guys would have to go and on road duty, and they had to stand there at the gate. And they told them that your uniform and the way you present yourself will cause, anybody to give you respect. I told them, and I just flat out told them, I said, no, I said, the weapon you have in your hand is what gets the respect.
Right.
I said, they could care less about that uniform. That uniform ain't bulletproof, baby.
Right. I'm going to ask you a question, and if you want to pass on past it, we'll pass on past it. And I understand if you want to. I understand I had a security clearance with the Coast Guard, so I understand how it works. Operation Black Dog. You want to talk about it or pass it?
Let's. Oh Lord.
Another time.
Please.
Okay. Whenever y'all hunt these things, do you ever experience it circling back on you and attempting to follow you guys, or as I would call it, flank?
Yeah, more times than a little.
I've had that happen. Because you feel like you're right on top of it, and then the next thing you know, it's behind you. And it may not even be the one that you're following. I think it may be another one that, because I think the way they work is if you get too close to one, I think the other one will lure you away from it. And I've heard a lot of, mainly what I hear, and I don't know what you hear up in Kentucky, and I'm trying to get a list together to kind of see what people are hearing. I hear mostly whistles and baby cries. That is the main noises, not the only, but that's the main noises we hear.
We hear whistles, baby cries, like this bird chirp. It's like a repetitive chirping noise, like a bird, and you'll hear the howl and the growl, howling and growling. And one thing that you'll hear is like if you're there and you're standing, real still, you can hear the scratching, like it's scratching on the bark of a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that's.
I've also heard them speak, but I've heard them say, like, whenever they do speak, it's one word. It's not a sentence. Have you experienced any of that in your area?
We heard one say no.
Uh-huh.
And that's, as far as speaking, that's the only one that we've ever heard speak. And it said no, and it was rough, gravelly noise sound when it said.
That's what I said. They sound animalistic, kind of like a dog trying to talk, but dark, but deeper is what I would compare it to.
Yeah.
I know.
It said no, and well, it's too late to say no because once that bullet leaves the barrel, there's no point in back.
I get beat up on this question. I'll probably get beat up now, so I'm going to tell everybody. I'm not saying this as an expert, and I'm not saying this is fact. I'm just saying it's my theory. I accept all theories. Like I said, to be a good teacher, you have to be a good student. I learned that from a good friend of mine. It's good advice. But people ask me, what do I think about Bigfoot, and what do I think about dogman, and what do I think about werewolves? I think a werewolf and a dogman could possibly be the same creature of the same species, different areas, different sizes, different shapes. I mean, you can take a Rottweiler and you can take a little bitty poodle. They're all canines. They're all different. They're all different sizes. As far as shape shifting and turning into those things, I'm skeptical on it. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying I have not experienced it. And that's just a theory that I have developed is I think they're the same thing, because if you read through history and you go back to even the 1400s, 1800s, they they weren't different. Everybody pretty much, you had larger ones, smaller ones, different ones, but dogs, they can look totally different depending on the breed, where, wolves and coyotes and where they're raised, what they hunt, their diet, even the color of their fur, depending on where they're at.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Just the location is one and stuff. The terrain and stuff will alter it. But yeah, I believe that the werewolf and the dogman are one and same, just according to the locale.
Right. Because I mean, some of them are going to have larger prey to hunt than others. Some are going to have smaller prey, and it's just I know I don't want to be their prey. I mean, I'm getting ready to do something crazy. I'm fixing to go down where I had that dogman encounter with the boys, and I'm going to do a solo overnight down there. And I'm going to cook out. I'm going to try to actually get an encounter. I'm going to cook actual food, bacon. Everybody says bacon, so I'm going to do bacon.
I've heard Bigfoot loves bacon.
I've
heard that about several people. As far as knowing myself, I'm a big boy. I like bacon myself.
Well, I hope he likes bacon more than he does me. That's my hope.
Good with you.
We're a little bit.
Yeah, it's
We're a little over an hour. I don't know if you've got things you got to do. I know you have a busy life. You run your business and everything. I don't want to keep you too long.
between my pawn shop and the cattle.
Right.
I work about 18-hour shifts.
Whew. Is it okay if we take a few questions before we end it tonight? Is that okay with you?
Well, that's perfectly fine with me.
All right, guys. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them up. I'll try to get the ones I can. And if you have any for Cal, we'll put them up, and you can put us on the spot, I guess.
Yeah, really. Won't be my first time.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. That's always the scary parts whenever you allow people to. I call it cross-examine you.
Yeah.
That's whenever it gets real interesting. Everybody's telling you that you're a great guest, Cal.
Oh, thank you all. Thank everyone.
Shell says that
I want to apologize about the technical problem.
That's totally fine. You're in the hills. He is actually, or in the mountains, I guess. He's in the mountains.
Yeah, I'm on top of the mountain.
Yeah, he's got a beautiful place up there. Shell says that she thinks they're the same lineage too as what we was talking about, the dogmen and the werewolves.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. I mean, as far as that, I mean, I don't believe in people shifting into werewolves.
Right.
If it was, I'd be in trouble.
Well, my channel kind of goes a different way than most channels do. I've took the road less traveled. I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but when I first done this, I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the way I done it as a detective and as an officer. I'm going to do it by, I'm going to do it by evidence. And the only way you're going to find the truth is to follow the evidence. Randy says, what type of bullets do you use, Cal?
Okay, right now what I'm using is 375 grain Under Armour extreme penetrators in my 458. But in my sidearm, I'm just using a Full Metal Jacket 500 Magnum for Smith & Wesson 500.
So you got a freight train and a Humvee. That's what you're putting out there.
Yeah, well, I have to. I don't want to end up substitutory.
Yes. Catherine Gay, thank you very much for the super sticker. God bless you, and thank you for supporting us. Let's see. Let's see. Has any dogman followed you home, is what Shannon says.
As far as me, no, but Steve has had one follow him home. Steve Tapio, he's a member of my team. He was a Marine Scout sniper, and he had one follow him home, and it stayed around for about a week until he, finally got to where he could take a shot. And when he took a shot, he hasn't seen it since.
Took off, huh?
That was about 18 months ago.
Wow. Renee, thank you for the $5. Thank you for supporting us, and God bless you also.
But I could have one, in one of my pastures, and and just not seen.
Right. People want to know how fast you think they run. Some people are saying 100 to 140 miles per hour.
Well, I'd say anywhere between 80 and 100, because when they take off, I mean, have you ever seen the one from Darkwater with the Fort Pierce encounter?
I haven't seen that one.
Okay, it's Fort Pierce, guys. The name's Blue. He opens his back door, and you can see Dogman run to his yard.
Right.
And it's a blur.
Tracker A says 55 miles an hour is what she thinks they move at.
I tell you what, now it might be, but they can get downwind.
And another thing people don't realize is whenever they're running, they are able to move in ways we can't move to go around objects. Their back and legs and everything is built for that.
Yeah, our anatomy isn't designed for that. I could take that because I'm laid up right now with my knee.
Yeah, well, go ahead and tell everybody what you done to your knee. That way, people know that when they're out hunting this stuff, that it's not just the creatures in the woods we have to watch out for. There's other dangers that lie out there.
Oh yeah, I got into some weeds, some underbrush there that was real thick. I was walking and felt something like grab a hold of my pant leg and my knee at the same time, and it just raked. When it did, pretty much cut your kneecap off. And it's not just that, it's not just creatures you got to watch out for, because me not knowing my terrain and not being able to see, it was old fence wire. I sent you the picture, didn't I, Mike?
Yes, and guys, this wasn't.
Can you post that for everybody?
I don't have it available, but it was not a little scratch. This would have been what I would have considered a serious trauma.
I could see that too.
Yeah, it was a terrible cut, and that's why first aid is so important in the field when you do these things. Carry first aid, know how to use first aid, and I always say when you go out, whenever I pack my pack, I plan on 3 days. If I'm going for an hour, I plan 3 days. That's just how I pack.
Yeah. Toby Henson. That's where I want to thank my teammate Toby Henson and Merle Hicks. Are both combat medics, and they're the one that took care of me with my knee until we got to the hospital. I want to thank them boys. I can't thank them enough, because I would have done more damage to my knee trying to come off and get to the vehicle than what I'd already sustained. Yeah, them.
What was it, Miss Mika, that you were asking? I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up with chat and listen and everything. What was your question? If you'll put it up one more time, I'll try to catch it. You guys are you're an actual boots on the ground. You all do most of your stuff is tracking and in the field, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So you guys and you do it routinely. It's not just a spur of the moment. You all actually plan out investigations, and you all actually go and help a lot of people with these issues, correct?
Yes, we're out. I usually at the least we're out twice a month, every other week. A lot of times in the summer we're out every weekend. And like I said, with my business and my cattle, I don't, I have to do, I have to take care of that before I could do anything,
Right. Shannon said you all have a YouTube channel.
Not at the moment, unfortunately. But Carlton Smith, our tech guy, he's the most tech savvy guy that on our team. He is going to start working on us for him. And when it gets up and running, I'll let you know, Mike. You can tell all the subscribers.
For sure. Yeah. Miss Mika asked, has a necropsy ever been done, and what do they do with the bodies? Well, they do necropsies, but the bodies are usually destroyed the first day. They usually burn them, has been my experience.
Yeah, that's, I've never, somebody asked me, well, why can't you find the Sasquatch corpse, the skeleton? I've bear hunted for 30 years. I've killed more than my share of bear. And now that 30-year me hunting bear, hell, guess how many bear bones and skeletons I have come across?
Right.
None.
And if you're watching, the experiments, they take a deer and tie it down, and 2 days, there's no deer.
Yeah. And any hunters out there that's ever been bear hunting, if you wound a bear and it's a life-threatening wound, that bear would do a death ward. And what it does is let the other bears in the area know that it's going down, and then they come and they take care of it, just like the Bigfoot.
I believe that. My granny taught me that. My grandpa was full-blood Cherokee. He told me stories of little people on the Trail of Tears. I may put that in a separate book that I do. But, and a lot of people say, well, there's no bodies. And like he always said, whenever you deal with one, you're not just dealing with one, you're dealing with more than one. And whenever you injure one, they take their dead. In Africa, there's apes that are known to take their dead, and it's not uncommon. And if they're doing that with these things being, a lot more advanced in their thinking and everything, why would they not take their dead? That they may even eat their dead. There's tribes in Africa that believe that whenever their people are killed, especially the people that go out and fight and all that, if they eat them, then they gain their strength and their knowledge and their wisdom. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things, but I do believe they take their dead, and I think that's why we don't find them. And I think if you do go out and you grab a dead body, like a friend of mine, Pecos, he found a bone down in the woods, and he knew that it was a Bigfoot bone. He's hunted them forever. He took that bone home with him, and it followed him home that night, tried to pull the air conditioner out of his window. It busted into his porch and stole the bone. I mean, he has bullet holes through his house where he shot through the walls with a 30-30 that he was so afraid for his life. They will come to your house.
Yeah, they will. If you're going to be lucky enough to make it out of the wood with the remains.
I look at it, like anything else.
As far as them coming getting their dead, yeah, because once I went through ranger school, we was taught rangers lead the way. But there's one thing, we all come home and nobody comes home because we do not leave nobody behind.
Right.
And if our military do it, you know that they're going to do it. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, it's like common respect for their fallen brother.
And another thing a lot of people don't understand, they'll tell me, well, Mike, if you was that close to that creature, why didn't you take the shot? Well, that goes back to, and I know you learned this in the military, is totality of circumstances. Taking a shot is not always the wisest thing, because you can set off a chain of events that you may not. Yes, you may not be able to control it. And if I shoot that creature and I wound it, or there's other creatures around, not only have I jeopardized my safety, but the safety of others, and the children are there. So you got to use your head.
Yeah, just because you got a gun don't mean you have to use it.
Sometimes using that gun will be your demise, and maybe the demise of others.
Yeah, you might come out without a scratch, but they ain't saying nothing about people what's with you. And on my team, we always practice safety first. If it's real close and you do shoot it, what's saying it's going to die right then? Right. You might not. Your bullet might ricochet off a reel and just clip the heart. He's going to be dying, mad, and he still won't be able to hurt you.
And then what's his family going to be thinking that's out there?
Yeah. And then the other three that you're not paying attention to, that you don't know is there, what are they going to do?
They're going to go.
Oh, yeah, they're on you. They are on you, lickety split.
Total beast mode.
Oh, yeah.
I always tell, my team, whenever I would go out with them, if you put something down, secure the area, evacuate, and evacuations plan A, B, and C,
Back up off of it.
Yep.
And just back up to where you got a good kill range. And if you got, leave yourself that field. That way if something does come to retrieve, guess what? Yep. You can turn one target into two.
And from a tactical point, that whenever you do down the enemy, you expect others to come, and you set up a perimeter. You have your safe zone, you have your kill zone, and that's the way you operate.
Yeah. Well, that's what Steve's saying now. He said he put one guy down and he had two buddies with him, and he waited, well, lo and behold, they come too. He turned one kill into three.
Right. Let's see. Thank you. We had a private account that gave $10. Thank you, and God bless you, and thank you for supporting us. I had a person ask if you have heard. There we go. I found it. Shell said, "Have you heard of any broken necks or bear kills anywhere? Have you ever found any of that?"
I have found deer with their neck broken. Yeah, but as far as a bear kill, not around where I wouldn't bear hunting. Like if I'm out, in the field with the team. No, I've never encountered that, but I have when I've been in the woods hunting.
Right.
But again, I also had a big black bear, big boar, 2 years ago. He was in the same little big patch of berries every day, right?
Oh no.
So I went to the berry patch one day, waiting for him to come because he took two of my spring calves. I was like, well, I'm putting him down. Well, the only thing got me is he rubbed the fender against my rhino, and I turned around and he backtracked on me.
And that's what and they will do that. They predators. They know how to get your flank. They know.
And one thing I want to tell everybody out there is, if you think that you're being watched by a cryptid or dogman or anything, I don't care if it's a chipmunk. One thing that you need to break yourself from, and if you're not aware of it, you will do it every time. Is don't let yourself get into a routine of doing anything. Yeah. And human beings are a creature of habit. They'll do it, and it's a routine. And your predators and your enemy will get on to it.
Right. And like I have another channel where I do outdoor activities, and we hunt, fish, and do stuff like that. And I always, whenever I go take the kids, we have encounters on that channel. We don't try to, but we do. Anytime you're in the woods, you're going to have an encounter, the possibility. But when we fish, we always take different routes in, different routes out. We camp in different places. Never set up the same way, never leave the same way.
No, never.
I think your questions have pretty much slowed down. So, Cal, I'm going to let you go ahead and give the last whatever you want to say about your team or anything, and we'll close this one out. I have another live today, guys. It's going to be a series I'm doing with somebody, so I don't know exactly what time we're going to do that. She's supposed to contact me, but I will post it to my page and to the community page on YouTube as soon as I know what time she's available. So it's going to be a busy day, 2 lives today. But Cal, I'm going to give you the floor, and I'm going to let you take us out. And I appreciate you being here. To all the men and women of the uniform, thank you very much for your service. To my brothers and sisters in the blue, thank you very much. To all the first responders, thank you very much. And Cal, you have the floor.
Okay, I just want to take a moment to thank my team, Toby Henson and Merle Hick. They're both combat medic, and they're our go-to when we get a splinter or whatever in the field. Steve Tecchio, he's our sniper. He's had experience, love him to death. All these guys are just great guys. Carlton Smith, he's one of our support team, and he's also our tech guy that's going to be working on the YouTube channel. And Tim Cummins and Tom Taylor, they're both support team members for. I just want to take time to thank them boys and let you know that I love each and every one of you boys. Without you, there's no team. And all the subscribers and everything, I want to thank you all again for letting me come and share one of my encounters. And I want everybody to have a great, glorious day, and God bless each and every one of you all.
And hopefully we'll have you back in the future.
Anytime, Mike. And if anybody that needs help from me or my team, you know how to contact me. they can contact you, and you let me have a heads up, and we will take care of that situation too.
All right. Yep, we sure will. Just contact me, and I'll give the information to Cal, and he'll come out there and give you all the help that you need. He has a great team. Experience runs very deep with them. In my opinion, there's not a better team than the United States military. We're the top. So we're gonna head on out. God bless everybody. Thanks for showing up. And until next time, guys, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. And we'll see you on the next one.